Pickle, let's go to the hotline. The first round of the Texas High School football playoffs has come and gone. We are now through to the area round of the playoffs. Here to talk about it is the Hall of Fame, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, and you can see him on High School Scoreboard Live on Valley Sports Southwest, and hear him on AM 1300 The Zone on his eponymous radio show. It's our friend Craig Way. Mr. Way, how are you?
I'm lovely. I'm just doing great, and here we go, charging into round two. And I don't know about you, I thought that round one was largely to Hoyle, according to Hoyle, for those who know the whole world of bridge. But we had an eye opener or two, and no bigger eyebrow raiser than the game we had last Friday with Lake Travis Vandergrift. But I thought by and large things came off without any huge, gigantic shocks.
I do want to close the book on the game that we called on Friday night. You and I and Austin Ivan on the call for Lake Travis's thrilling 13-10 win over Vandergrift. I think that I go back and forth that on one hand, Vandergrift was unbeaten, 4th ranked in the state. Lake Travis was 8-2, had 2 losses on the year. They had big quarterback questions. But on the other hand, you look at just, I would say, the broader history of these two programs, and that would not signify an upset. How do you qualify and maybe describe that what we saw on Friday night as far as upset, not upset, surprise, not surprise?
I guess maybe the reason why it would be looked at as an upset, other than the obvious, the state rankings and the unbeaten thing, is because Vandergrift had made the run to the state final a year ago. The program has been on nothing but an upward trend of the last 5 to 6 years. So it seemed like the next logical step was to at the very least get back to the state final and maybe have another shot, at the team that vanquished them last year, DeSoto. Who knows? Maybe that's the only reason why. But I think to a larger point that you're kind of making here, and I've lived down in this area long, and of course I lived in the Metroplex almost as long as I've lived in the Austin area, but now I've lived down there just a little longer in the Austin area than in North Central Texas. And all the years that I was covering it and broadcasting it from up in North Central Texas, the sentiment always seemed to be regions 1, 2, and 3 were always bangers, and you might have some uncertain things. You get to Region 4, and for many years, there was only one team. It was Westlake, and then, oh, by the way, we'll see what happens with others. Then that dynamic changed once Lake Travis moved into the state's largest classification. So then it was 2 teams. I mean, they'd even gotten to calling third round of the playoffs Valley Week, when the two big bullies would go down and rout some team from the Rio Grande Valley and then clean up a San Antonio team. It was Converse Judson. Once they kind of fell off a little bit, it belonged to those two. So maybe it sticks in people's minds when in reality there are other contenders both in D1 and D2 in Region 4. It's so easy for us to gravitate back to those and say, oh yeah, well, Westlake. Oh yeah, well, and listen, there's good teams out there. Obviously, San Antonio Reagan is poised to give Westlake a bye. I mean, there's good teams out there in Region 4 still to go. It's pretty easy for us to revert back to those two and say, oh yeah, well, they were supposed to win in round 1.
So then you mentioned it was a relatively chalky first round of the playoffs, and I think I would agree. I think it had the right amount of chaos overall. But which of these results would you say surprised you the most? Would it be Little River Academy's win over Hitchcock? Would it be Cedar Hill beating Pflugerville Weiss 62-0 in a relative stunner? Or would it be Deer Park being down only 14-7 to North Shore at halftime of that game? North Shore ended up pulling away for a victory, but certainly things got dicey in the first half for the Mustangs. Which of those results surprised you the most?
Well, I don't think it would be Deer Park North Shore because We've seen that in round one for whatever reason with some favored teams where the slog was a little difficult early, getting into a postseason mindset, getting things going, and then they, kind of dusted it off and when what's the phrase you like to use? Played with their food.
Mm-hmm.
They got beyond that. The Weiss Cedar Hill thing surprised me only in the complete totality of the blowout. Our friend Jerry Forrest, his all-knowing computer had Cedar Hill winning, but only by one skinny point, and he was only off by 61, like we all were. I don't think anybody expected that. I'm sure nobody expected that. But, I know Weiss had wobbled a bit down the stretch, but to lose like that, that was a stunner. And then, so I would have to say it's probably those Bees, Little River Academy beating Hitchcock. I know Hitchcock had some banged up players. I know that. But Academy, they come out of that tough-minded lower classification Super Centex where you get some really physically and mentally tough teams. So maybe we shouldn't be shocked by it, but definitely surprised.
Talking Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation. Hashtag TF Today. All right, Craig, the meanest thing we do to each other each week is to ask you to pick one game to go to, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'll give you three options. You can either go to the Star on Saturday for South Oak Cliff and Melissa, or you can go to where's that game? Let me make sure I get this right. Or you can go to Happy State Bank Stadium in Canyon on Friday for New Home and Sunray. Or you can go to it's easier when the home team. Or you can go to Seguin at Matador Stadium 7:30 p.m. Friday night as unbeaten San Antonio Reagan takes on unbeaten Austin Westlake. Which of those three games are you teleporting to?
Well, I'm probably going to say Melissa South Oak Cliff because I've been looking forward to that game. But all the other ones that you mentioned are all very good contests. If I remember correctly, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, I can kind of cheat on this a little bit because isn't the Happy Sunray the game in Happy, isn't that part of a double header there?
That is.
So I could could actually cheat and see two games. I could see those skyrockets of Wellington against Morton, and then see New Home and Sunray.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that'd be good. And let me also throw this in there too. The choice would be South Oak Cliff Melissa. I'll say that. But that's a great way to double up. And I'll tell you another thing, too. You've got in 4A, you've got a big matchup. And this is one that I kind of like as well. In fact, there's a couple in 4A that are very, very close together also. Now, they're not in the same stadium. But Burnett's playing Port Lavaca Calhoun and Bastrop. And that's on Friday night. And if for whatever reason that didn't work for you and it was not going well, you could go 15 minutes down the road to Smithville because there's another big matchup. I was looking it up. I know I saw it. There's another one in Smithville on Friday. And, hey, you could get there for the second half of that one if you missed out, if the first half didn't work out for you for Burnett and Port Lavaca Calhoun, although I think that's going to be a good ball game. I really do. So there's a couple. That's the great thing about this time of year, how many people have you known over the years who have done or would like to do or plan to do kind of like I just laid out? You go to one game and then you zip over another. I did in 1985. I started the day at noon with Odessa Permian and Houston Yates. Mm-hmm. Then I zipped over for an afternoon game. That was the 5A title game in 85. Zipped over to Eamon Carter Stadium to see Sweetwater shock Tom Ball in the 4A game that afternoon, and then zipped back over to H-E-B Pennington Field that night to see Electra win the 2A state championship that night. I got three in one day, and it's doable for a couple in a day outside of course, when we're all at Jerry World watching 3 per day for 4 days.
You're a value shopper, most certainly. Craig Way, the Texas Basketball Hall of Famer. One last question for you, Craig. This weekend, you will not, unfortunately, be joining us on the desk on High School Scoreboard Live. Are they going to make you video chat in?
No one has said anything to me about it yet, but I'm okay with it if it needs to be. I can certainly, from the hotel in Ankeny, Iowa, can do it. Absolutely.
You'll be unavailable because you will be up in Ames getting ready for Texas and Iowa State for the final time for the foreseeable future. And my question to you is, will you miss going to Ames, Iowa?
Hickory Park review. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. There's not too much beyond that. The Ankeny Diner's okay. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all I'll miss.
He's Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Hall of Famer. You can hear him on the Craig Way Show 2 to 4 p.m. on AM 1300 The Zone. You can see him usually on High School Scoreboard Live, but he'll be back next week, and you can hear him on the Call of Texas and Iowa State this weekend on your radio. Craig, appreciate your time, my friend. Safe travels.
Enjoy round and week number 2, my friend.
I promise I will. There he goes. Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, joins us every Tuesday here on Texas Football Today. And yeah, he won't be joining us on Scoreboard. Just Aaron and I on Scoreboard this week. So it is, I would say a third worse. But like, let's be real, it's probably like
a lot worse.
A lot worse.
Not because of Aaron.
Correct. No, she's doing her part.
Yes,
she's doing her part. Let's be real. So anyway, we appreciate his time as always.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.